Welcome, dear friends, to an extraordinary journey into Britain's Roman past. Today, we step inside one of the most fascinating remnants of Roman Britain, the Roman villa. These grand estates were more than just homes, they were symbols of wealth, culture, and the lasting influence of Rome on the British Isles. But what was life like inside these magnificent villas? Who lived here, and how did they enjoy the luxuries of Roman civilization, heated floors, stunning mosaics, and even private bathhouses? From noble Roman families to local Britons who adopted Roman ways, these villas tell a story of cultural blending and transformation. Through archaeological discoveries, expert insights, and stunning reconstructions, we will explore the daily life, agriculture, and craftsmanship that thrived within these walls. How did they build villas? And why did these villas eventually fall into ruin? This is Time Stream, and our journey into the Roman world begins now.
Who would have built this villa? Well, the people who would have built this villa would actually be the local Iron Age people of the area would have built this villa. It will not be the Romans. The Romans came in and invaded, and they put their administration stamp on it and suggested and encouraged that anybody that would like to become more Romanised and become part of the society of Rome will build villas. So this villa, although it's actually one of the early villas, would have started off with living in the roundhouses to build this villa. And this villa would be slowly done in 3 parts. And once the villa was actually created, this is the first section, the first phase. Once this part of the villa was done, it would not be tiled, it was likely to be thatched. Because to get tiles created in the Roman times, you need to be able to collect your clay, build your furnaces and your kilns, have somebody to make them and actually create them, and it's going to take some time. So to get people moving into the villas quickly, it is very likely that the majority of the villas, right at the beginning of the Roman occupation, would have been thatched. Once the thatch has actually died down, sort of like gone past its best life, it needs rethatching, that's the point when they would have put the tiles on. Because by then they would have enough tiles and they've got enough more of the expense to actually put tiles onto the roof. What we know about Sparshawt's villa is that this is a very unusual villa that was actually finally owned by a lady. In the Roman period, ladies were not deemed to be able to hold any value in terms of money or property or anything like that. It is quite rare. However, if we go back to the point where Boudica was actually fighting the Romans, there was a point in time where things could have gone a different way to what they did. But because of that event, the Romans realised they're going to have to treat Britain slightly differently to that of other parts of the empire. We had a society in the Iron Age people of an equal society. Whoever was good at the job got the job. Men and women were equal all the way through. So it is possible that this person, this female that's managed to inherit this villa, the daughter of the person that died, was actually an Iron Age person and therefore had the right to actually own the villa. She was the last one to live here. The villa went into ruin and that was the end of the villa. But there was actually 3 stages. The villa was a lot bigger when she acquired it than what we currently got at the moment. There would be 3 other wings and you'd have the bathhouse as well. So the villa would have been quite big at the time. It's a farming villa. She probably would have had slaves and servants and people working along the farm with her. She would have been quite a business person and quite shrewd because she still needs to be able to pay her workforce. So she would actually be quite a clever and unusual woman to actually have this villa. If we're talking about slaves, the question you need to ask, do you want to be a slave, a servant or a free person? A free person male does have the luxury of being able to get married to have own their own property, be quite forceful in politics, but equally they're going to have to watch their back, because being someone that's quite rich and in politics, there are people that want to take that away. So they're going to always have to look at that. For a female, if you'll be told to marry whoever they are marrying, and they do not have any rights. There is no rights to owning a villa, there's no rights to money, there is no rights, you can't divorce. So as a female, it is not looking prosperous to be a free lady. Yes, you'd be able to run the servants, you'd be able to get your servants and your slaves to make things for you, but it is your husband that's going to take the reward from that. Any children that you have, the son will become higher up than the mother, because they're male. The females will be under the duration of the mother. As a servant, you get paid to do your work, and to move on, you would need to have a recommendation from your previous owner. If you fall out with your previous owner for whatever reason, or they're treating you bad and you decided to leave, then they do not have to give you a reference to go to the next one, so you could be without work. That is always a risk that you have, and the person that is paying you does not have to be kind to you. If you're a slave, and the slaves can be male or female, you have slaves for various different things. Your slave could be a weaver. If they're a weaver, they're going to have a skill. If they're a very good weaver, whenever they weave anything, it will be yours, or at least your husband's. If you get a good reputation of having good cloth, then your wealth becomes greater, and you look after your slave quite well. You clothe them, feed them, and treat them with quite high respect. If they stay with you for a long duration, you may even free them and give them a pension to go off and live the end of their lives, which will only probably be about 5 years. So the society is very different. Slaves can be treated badly by Romans, or they can be treated very well, depending on the value of the slave. If the slave has some sort of skill that is classified as a great value, then they're going to be looked after. If the skill is not great, then they probably won't get looked after as well. But it depends on the owners. We have several different rooms in this villa. We've created this villa and decorated it into much more of a Iron Age Roman type villa, because this reflects the ideas of the Iron Age as well as the Roman, and we think that's probably what they would have decorated the villa. If we look at Rome, this villa would not fit, but we're not in Rome, we're in Britain. So we have to blend the two cultural ideas together, so any of the paintings or decorations that you see is a cross between the two. So we're starting to see an Iron Age becoming Romanised and taking on the responsibilities of the Rome as part of the Roman Empire, but we also still see the Iron Age element to it. And this will continue right the way through until the end of the Roman period. The room next door to me has a fire. There is no hypercourse on it underneath the floor. It's just a fire with a chimney, and it would have been the family room. The walls of the villa is around about 2 feet in depth, and it takes a lot of heat to heat that stone. To have the hypercourse running 24/7, it will take an awful lot of resources, timber resources, to keep that fire going, and that is expensive. You'd also have to make sure that you have servants to ensure that the fire is fed at regular intervals and constantly pushing your logs through. So the likelihood is that the hypercourse would only be used on prominent days where they are trading with their neighbours, or they're having some sort of political gathering. It'd be something of a high value status type event where they would actually have the hypercourse running. The baths, they would have the hypercourse running regardless, because they still need to cleanse yourself. But in the actual villa itself, it's too expensive to run, especially when quite a lot of rooms will be empty. The other thing about the hypercourse is that the villas in Britain had hypercourse in the villas. If you were in Rome or in Italy or the south of France, you would not have hypercourse. The hypercourse is only in the northern parts of the provinces. The hypercourse was there because the villa is actually built for a warm climate of Italy, where they're trying to keep the heat out of the villa and keeping everything cool. In the UK, the weather is very, very different. It's colder, wetter, and the villa, although very pretty to look at and to be in, and seems to be much nicer than the roundhouses, actually gets very cold in winter, even with the fires going. There has been an experiment in the spring where we had the hypercourse running, and yes, we can get the temperature up, but it took us a week to get the temperature up to actually heat the villa to an even temperature, which was constant from then on. In the winter, we've not tried that, so I can't actually make a recommendation, but my assumption would be it would take an awful lot to actually heat that up. We have the next room along is our posh room. It has the mosaic inside. The mosaic has taken quite a long time to do. It's been hand done, and it is an experimental piece. The original is in Winchester Museum. The mosaic that we created, the circle part has taken I believe 500 hours over 12 volunteers. So 500 hours times 12 is what it's taken for the centre part. The outer part, the square part, which is a plain tiling or mosaicing, that took a lot less time. Took again 12 people, only taken within 40 hours. So it's a lot quicker. The mortar that they use is experimental, and it actually moves with heat and wear. And we know that the Romans in Britain used a mortar that seems to move, because we see in the archaeology, as many things have fallen on top of mosaics, they just bend and cope with the terrain of the objects it's been laid on and buried for thousands of years until excavation. So we do see an awful lot of things that we've tried out how it works.
Стены дома были штукатурены и расписаны разноцветными красками и сюжетами.
The villas are great in Britain in terms of light. We have glass in there due to the military sort of be able to produce it for the British Roman people. However, the roundhouses, although may look primitive and may appear to be backwards in technology, actually suits the environment it is actually built in. It allows the weather to go round the roundhouses. It allows the heat to be circulated evenly, so there's no cold spots, and there are plenty of cold spots in the villa. So, looking at the two from one to the other, because as this is an early Roman villa, the Iron Age people had a lot more sophistication in their technology because they used the environment and the climate they were used to, rather than trying to impose the Roman ideas on an area or an environment that is not suited. So you have those two elements to actually go against.
В отличие от северо-западных провинций, Британия следовала по пути развития Рима. Основная здесь школа живописи никогда не развивалась по собственному пути, как это происходило, например, на территории Германии. Археологические находки относятся ко II веку и представляют собой настенную живопись в архитектурно-композиционном стиле и подобную ей в красно-желтом цветовом дизайне.
As for clothing, clothing did change throughout the later part of the Iron Age into the Roman period. They tried to be much more Romanised. However, the people in this villa, if you were male and you were originally from the Iron Age, you'd probably carry on wearing the trousers, the breeches that the Iron Age people were wearing, but only use the toga when you're entertaining. And you'd only use the toga when you've got the haggard course running. The ladies' fashion changed as well, but again, the toga type dress of the Romans would have only been used inside the villa, not out and about. They would have just used very similar to that of the late Iron Age clothing. As we go through the Roman period, those things will change again. So Romans never stayed still. The idea that trade was just male is certainly in the literature is true, but in the archaeology it is questionable. In Britain there seems to be an awful lot of trade in the towns that are by women, although there is no written sources to say one way or the other. So it's very difficult to understand what is actually going on in the Roman society in Britain. We know about the Roman society in Rome quite a bit, and we tend to take our ideas from that, but we don't actually look at the people they were conquering and eventually marrying and having their own children, how those different cultures blended together and how those cultures then changed how people's outlook were.
Последняя структура, которая должна быть построена, возможно, в постримский период, была деревянным залом за пределами дома. Возможно, постройка была предназначена для рабочего персонала.
So that's all I can really say about the villa. You would have different types of windows. You'd have open gaps, so the shutters, of different shapes and sizes, and you will have some windows that would have glass in them. And just to have a little bit of interest, that windows is a Saxon word that just means a fairy hole. So windows was not actually a thing for the Romans. It was just a opening that was covered in glass. The further room along again, we have another two rooms. The other two rooms are just rooms set up. You can use them for, again, further entertaining, or just relaxing, or as a study, or anything like that. And we've created it so that it interacts. We've also put a little bit of a kitchen in there, although the kitchen would have their own wing entirely, because you don't want to burn the villa down.
As we conclude our journey through the Roman villas of England, we leave with a deeper appreciation of their beauty, innovation, and historical significance. These grand estates were not just homes but centers of culture, economy, and Roman influence that shaped Britain for centuries. Though time has worn down their walls, the legacy of these villas remains in the art, architecture, and traditions they left behind. Each mosaic, each artifact, and each ruin tell a story of a civilization that once flourished here. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of history. Until next time, keep discovering the past. This is Time Stream, see you next time.